A terrifying zombie virus outbreak suddenly sweeps across the United States, turning those infected into horrific creatures with a blend of zombie and vampire traits. To survive, Martin and his family have no choice but to flee the city. As Martin's father works on repairing the car, their dog suddenly senses something and bolts off, barking furiously. Without thinking, Martin chases after the dog, a move that ultimately saves his life. As he realizes something is wrong, the door behind him slowly closes. Suddenly, his mother smashes a window and screams for him. Martin runs towards her without hesitation, but halfway there, a stranger tackles him to the ground. The man hands Martin a gun, and together, they cautiously approach the house. The man cautiously opens the door, scanning the area for any signs of the creatures. But a sudden noise catches Martin's attention. He follows the sound and discovers his mother lying lifeless on the ground. Turning his head, he sees his father, barely clinging to life, and his baby brother, who had been bitten to death by one of the monsters. Before they can fully process the horror, the creature vanishes from sight, only to reappear right in front of them the next second. Martin quickly pulls the trigger, firing at the creature, while the man seizes the opportunity to pin it against the car's hood. He then grabs a metal rod and plunges it into the monster's heart. Working together, they manage to kill the creature. However, the ordeal is far from over. Martin's father, having been bitten, is on the verge of turning into one of the monsters. Realizing the grim reality, the man shoves Martin aside and ends his father's life before he can fully transform. Now alone, Martin has no choice but to follow the man, who introduces himself as Mr. Together, they embark on a desperate journey north. The unknown virus spreads rapidly, leaving devastation in its wake. Thankfully, like vampires, these creatures turn to ash when exposed to sunlight, making the daytime relatively safer. Over the next few months, Mr. teaches Martin essential survival skills, hand-to-hand combat, and how to apply these skills in real-life situations. Every time they kill a creature, they extract its teeth, as these have become a valuable currency in the post-apocalyptic world, more useful than cash. They trade the teeth for supplies at survivor camps. With enough supplies, they continue their trek towards their destination. Along the way, they encounter a nun being chased by a group of men. In a world gone mad, the true horror often lies in human nature, and Mr. has a deep-seated hatred for such people. Without hesitation, he charges in and knocks one of the men to the ground. The other tries to flee, but Mr. has no intention of letting him go. He retrieves a specially made dart from the car and throws it, hitting his target. He then takes out a knife and finishes off the struggling man. The nun, clearly traumatized, is left with no choice but to join them. However, they are unaware that by saving her, they have now crossed paths with dangerous individuals who won't let this go easily. On their journey, the group is drawn to a tent by the sound of a crying baby. Inside, they find a horrifying scene of bodies strewn about, but their primary concern is the baby's safety. When they open the stroller, they realize it was a meticulously planned trap. By the time they understand, it's too late. They are captured. The captors are a group known as the Brotherhood, ruthless band that thrives in the post-apocalyptic world. The two men Mr. had killed earlier were members of the Brotherhood and Jebediah's sons. Now, Jebediah seeks revenge for their deaths. Fortunately, Martin and the nun hold some value for Jebediah, so he spares their lives for the time being. Mr., however, is not so lucky. They throw him into an area infested with monsters. Surviving unarmed against four ravenous creatures seems impossible for an ordinary person. But Mr. is no ordinary man. Battle-hardened and resourceful, he manages to fight his way through and survive. Martin and the nun are also having a tough time. The nun becomes Jebediah's tool for abuse, while Martin is groomed as a lackey, often tasked with various chores. However, one day, while fetching water alone, Martin seizes the opportunity to escape. Jebediah foolishly believes Martin wouldn't dare leave on his own, not realizing that Martin has learned many survival skills from Mr. and can survive in the post-apocalyptic world. As night falls, Martin successfully finds Mr.'s car, but unfortunately, he can't open the door. Worse still, a monster appears in the distance. With no other option, Martin prepares for a desperate fight. Just when things seem bleak, Martin is suddenly pulled into the car. It's Mr., who has miraculously survived. Mr. climbs from the back seat to the driver's seat, starts the car, and manages to shake off the monster. He then reverses and runs it over. However, the monster gets up unscathed. Mr. steps on the gas, sending the monster flying before quickly driving away without looking back. The two drive until dawn before stopping to rest. After tending to their wounds, they continue their journey. Not long after, they encounter a hitchhiking girl. Initially, Mr. wants to ignore her, but seeing the hopeful look in Martin's eyes, he decides to take her along. That night, they are confronted by a monstrous creature, which Martin quickly dispatches with an arrow to the heart. As Martin prepares to take the creature's teeth, a noise from a nearby restroom startles them. Inside, they find a survivor, left there by Jebediah's men to attract monsters. Now united by a common goal, they all seek revenge against Jebediah. The next day, they use the survivor, Foley, as bait to capture one of Jebediah's men. That night, they disguise themselves as members of the Brotherhood and infiltrate Jebediah's territory, successfully capturing him. From Jebediah, they learn that the nun has already escaped. Despite this, Mr. ensures that Jebediah pays for his atrocities by tying him to a tree and slashing his back, leaving the scent of blood to attract monsters. Jebediah meets a gruesome end, paying for his heinous actions. After avenging Jebediah, the group continues their journey north. They stop at a survivor camp to replenish their supplies and are surprised to reunite with the nun who had managed to escape. Their relief is short-lived as a helicopter suddenly appears in the sky, dropping hordes of monsters. It becomes clear that this is another attack orchestrated by the Brotherhood. The once lively camp quickly turns into a scene of carnage. Despite the guards' brave efforts, they are overwhelmed by the sheer number of monsters. Mr. and his group manage to hide in a building, narrowly escaping the massacre. The next morning, they resume their journey, but their car breaks down. Left with no other choice, they begin to travel on foot. Before nightfall, they find an abandoned parking lot where they decide to spend the night, setting up traps around their campsite. Deep into the night, their worst fears come true when the traps start to go off, signaling the presence of monsters nearby. Tension rises as everyone braces for an attack. As expected, monsters emerge from the darkness, closing in on them. The group hastily retreats into a cornfield, the monsters hot on their trail. To ensure the others have a chance to escape, the nun bravely steps forward to confront the monsters. The remaining group members continue their journey north on foot. One morning, Willie goes out to use the restroom and never returns. When they find him, he has already turned into a lifeless corpse. Mr. quickly realizes that they are dealing with a cunning monster. That night, as Foley is about to sleep, strange noises come from the woods. Seeing a shadowy figure, both Mr. and Martin give chase without hesitation. Halfway through, Mr. senses something is wrong. Returning to the camp, he finds that Foley has vanished. It becomes clear that they fell for the monster's diversion tactic. After searching throughout the night, they finally hear Foley's cries for help from an abandoned building. Despite knowing it's a trap, Martin is driven by urgency and storms in with his shotgun. He finds Foley, but she has been tortured beyond recognition. Just as Martin is about to rescue her, he is ambushed from behind by Jebediah, who is now turned into a monster. In the critical moment, Mr. arrives just in time, but is quickly overpowered by the monster Jebediah. Enhanced by the virus, Jebediah possesses both immense strength and retained human intelligence. Mr. is pinned against the wall, rendered helpless. However, as villains often falter due to excessive monologuing, Jebediah is caught off guard by a sudden, sneak attack from Martin. Seizing the opportunity, Mr. delivers a powerful blow. Together, they manage to defeat Jebediah. Sadly, Foley, who was pinned to the wall, has already been infected by the virus, and Martin has to tearfully put her out of her misery. With the immediate threat eliminated, Mr. and Martin resume their journey north. As they travel through sparsely populated areas, they encounter fewer monsters. Along the way, they meet Belle, who is traveling alone. Over the course of a few days, Martin and Belle develop a deep bond. Recognizing that Martin has matured and can now face the world on his own, Mr. decides to part ways with the group. Martin and Belle eventually drive to Canada, where they begin a new chapter in their lives.